Welcome back to another edition of the Cricket8 podcast. I am one half of the Cricket8 podcast, Machel St. Patrick Hewitt. I nearly forgot my name there. And the other half of the Cricket8 podcast is the ever delightful Rob Barron. Rob, how are you doing today?
That's a very strong start, mate. Yeah, I know my own name. That's about it at the moment. It's fast and furious in the cricket world, but yeah, I'm pretty confident in my own name. You're going to ask me some more taxing questions now, I think.
Yeah, most definitely. Listen, Rob, it's been a week since you and I last checked in, and a week is a long time in international and franchise cricket. So much going on. We got a Lanka Premier League, we got Major League, we got Legends League, and of course, at the time of recording, we're less than nearly 18 hours away. In fact, from the start of the first day of the first Test match at Lords between England and the West Indies. And actually, I mean, you and I spoke about Jimmy Anderson particularly last week, but let's start with England versus the West Indies. Both sides have now announced their teams. England probably, actually, no, do you know what, Rob? Let's go there. England probably as expected, but I want to talk on Shoaib Bashir. So
Sure.
England's bowling attack is essentially a four-man bowling attack with Ben Stokes as the kind of auxiliary all-rounder fifth bowler, right? So you've got Jimmy, Chris Wokes, um, Atkinson,
Yeah.
Bashir, Ben Stokes, and obviously Joe Root can probably throw down some off spin if needed, right? Now, when I saw the England team, and I can only talk to you about this in the context of me looking at what I thought was the most likely West Indies lineup. And Lords is a funny place because I have always held on to this traditional belief that you don't really need a frontline spinner at Lords.
Agreed.
Or even if you do have one, it's negligible how much of an impact they're going to have on the game because you expect the seamers to have a significant impact if the bowling does have an impact. But then England picks Bashir. So England's team came out before the West Indies team. England picked Bashir, and all of a sudden I was like, oh, does that mean West Indies are going to have to pick a spinner? So let's talk there first. Why is this selecting a spinner for the sake of, well, we better have a spinner? Or do you think that they've been spooked by what they've seen at Lords and said, well, you know what, we would have picked a Jack Leach, so we're going to have to pick Bashir? Like, is this something you agree with?
I think it feels like they don't need a spinner. I suspect that England don't have enough fit pacers. I think that's the issue here.
Okay.
They wanted. Look at the centrally contracted players. And yeah, we spoke about last time. They've ruined Jofra Archer. That was their own fault. So he can't play. Ollie Robinson is getting hit for 40 in the county championship, and he looks down on pace. And they've said to him, and Rob Key alluded to this the other day. Like we can't. What they've said without saying it is, we told him to go away and get fit and strong, and perhaps stop eating so many pies and drinking so many pints, and he'll be able to crank it up a bit. And instead, he's sort of waddling in and bowling 75 miles an hour and getting carted. So you can't pick him, right? He's kind of deselected himself. So I don't think they've got enough pacers. Gus Atkinson, as we said last time, he doesn't fill the opposition with dread. He bowls quite fast in white ball cricket. What's he done with the red ball? Not a lot. So I think they've gone the spinner because, like, Root is as good as Bashir at bowling in Test matches, at least as good as him. And if they really need spin overs, which they probably won't, it's going to be overcast at Lords down the slope. It hoops around. Wokes averages about 12 at Lords or something. Jimmy got 6 for nothing the other day and ended up with a 7 for. Like, he's still amazing. I don't think they need spin. They'll definitely bowl Bashir. I don't know how much he's going to bowl in the first innings. I think they've picked him due to lack of alternatives, and because they've done this left field selection of him based on his release point and his height and YouTube videos and stuff like that, rather than being good at cricket for a while, they kind of have to go. Yeah, he did really well in India from where he was in his cricketing career to turn up, and he bowled fine. Like, he did fine. He didn't rip through them in multiple Test matches or anything. I don't know. I think on paper, and again, the bookies don't believe this. I think on paper, West Indies have got the better bowling attack of the two teams. I'd be much more scared facing the Windies attack than I would of this England attack. It's basically Wokes and Anderson have got to do the heavy lifting, and the rest are making up the numbers for me.
Do you expect Stokes to have to bowl more than he should? Or how do you think they're using Ben Stokes? We could argue how do you think they're going to use Ben Stokes across the series? But let's just talk Lords first and foremost. Is Ben Stokes still seen? I mean, he's the captain. Is he still seen as someone who will bowl himself into the ground if needs be? Because for a while, obviously, he's had the injury and he's not really bowled as much. I've seen him bowl in bits and pieces as of late. Is he going to have to do some heavy lifting as well?
So he's got through quite a lot of overs. I'm just looking now. He's got through quite a lot of overs recently for Durham. I think he got a 5 and a 4 in successive games not that long ago. That was end of May sort of thing. So he is readying himself to be called upon when required. But I think a lot of the Ben Stokes story and narrative is done around what Ben Stokes thinks and how he wants to be perceived and how his legacy. There's a bit of Andy Murray in Ben Stokes. Like, all you hear in England at the moment is stuff about how much Andy Murray wants to do this, that, and the other. He's not even playing. And all you hear, he's been constructing this narrative about how he's a legend and how he plays on one leg and all this. He's been basically hasn't won a tennis match for about 4 years, but all I ever hear about is Andy Murray and what a legend he is. So Stokes has done really well to have the perception that he's got. Like, most guys in the street in England could probably name you 3 starters tomorrow or 4 of the starting 11 for England. But almost everyone in England knows who Ben Stokes is, right? He's constructed that for himself, and he's done remarkably well to be thought of as a total legend in all formats. So I think what will happen is Stokes won't want to bowl, like his body won't want him to bowl, but he's got himself fit enough that if he's needed, England need a spell when the ball is doing nothing, or when the ball is reversing a bit, or when the pitch is conducive to his bounce that he can get you sometimes. You know, sometimes you need a Stokes kind of bowler. And if there's half an hour where England are under it and West Indies are put on, it's the Holder Joshua De Silva partnership is the one that the West Indies really need, I reckon, in this series, where they need those 2 guys to bat long, because the inexperience before them in the order is going to nick off to Wokes and Anderson under clouds. Like, I'm pretty confident that will happen. But these guys have got experience, and they're going to need someone like Stokes to change it up, because the England attack can get a bit samey. Bashir's not going to be spinning it round corners. He's definitely not going to be spinning it under clouds at Lords. So there might be a time where they need Stokes, and Stokes can add another chapter to the Ben Stokes is a legend, 9th autobiography or whatever he's going to be on by the time he finishes. He's a great cricketer, Ben Stokes, but he's more of a bit like Flintoff, not quite the same, but he's a cricketer that is capable of greatness rather than being a great cricketer. So he's a competent fielder that occasionally does something great. He's a competent batsman that occasionally does something great, and he's a competent bowler that occasionally does something great, and that's about it. And he's remembered for all the great stuff.
Oh, listen, that's a strong take right there. That's a strong take. Rob Barron made that take, people. I'm the one used to catching pelters, Rob, but that's a strong take right there. But listen, it's interesting what you say about Bashir there, because if we briefly pivot to the West Indies side, their bowling attack, which you've alluded to, you've said looks stronger on paper than England's. Obviously, the 2 pacers, the 2 90-mile-an-hour bowlers in Shamar and Alzari. I think we spoke last time about, or maybe we didn't, but Alzari is going to now have to step up with Kemar Roach out. Yeah. Alzari now has to understand he is the pack lead of this bowling attack. You have Jason Holder as the kind of experienced end holder. Anyways, you know what I mean? Hold up an end. Yeah. Jaden Seals, obviously, who's been bowling well in county championship. Now, here's a question mark for me. Some people, not necessarily myself, expected Kevin Sinclair to play because they just assumed West Indies would want to buttress the batting lineup at the back end because they're fearful probably of Jimmy and Chris Wilkes running through the top order, and West Indies being something like 55 for 4 or something like that, and adding extra batter. I just recorded something on the Caribbean Cricket Podcast handles a while back where I said cricket teams need to get better, West Indies being one of them, at picking your best batters and your best bowlers. The Kevin Sinclair pick at number 8 smacks of, if he'd been picked, smacks of, we know that you can bat. So whilst we're not totally and wholly convinced of what you can add with the ball at this level, because you can bat, we're going to just sneak you in and drop our frontline spinner, right? Moti is the standout frontline spinner. I don't think we need a big discussion on who's better with the ball, Moti or Kevin Sinclair. But it's a brave move by West Indies, because they must be looking at their batting lineup thinking, will this top 6 really give us the runs? But my thing, Rob, is this. When you're picked in the top 6, you're there. You're picked to make runs, so do your job. And the bowlers at the back end, from Alzari down to Jaden, who'll probably bat 11, you're picked to make to take wickets. So Moti's pick makes sense, but given that you just said Bashir's pick doesn't make sense, does Moti's pick make sense for the West Indies? Because Moti has shown in his fledgling career thus far that maybe he can take wickets on all surfaces at any point in time. But I don't know if that makes more sense than Bashir.
Yeah, the West Indies attack is the attack that I definitely would have picked. And the England attack, we never would have got to this stage if I was in charge, because you'd have Jofra Archer available and you'd have Jimmy Anderson available and you'd probably have Stuart Broad available. So you could have an amazing attack if you're England now. And, Mark Wood is fit sometimes. We've got lots of bowlers that are really good, but we can't get any of them on the park for various reasons. They've also retired Jimmy. Anyway, we spoke about that last time. The West Indies attack, I totally 100% agree. You pick your best bowlers and tell the bats you have to do the job. You don't let somebody who... It's all about... I spoke about this with Mega yesterday. It's all about giving yourself the best percentage chance of winning the next game of cricket. That's what you're meant to do when you put teams on the park, right? And you have to take wickets. You have to take 20 of them. And Moti gives you more of a chance of that than any other spinner in the West Indies right now. He's the standout, isn't he? And he is the all-format standout. And I know Jared raves on about him a lot, but we've seen a lot of him in the white ball stuff. He has got a dependable action. He seems to know his craft, and he's improving every time I watch him. He's not a great Test match number 8. But Jason Holder was a Test match number 8 for ages when he should have been a Test match number 4 in the team he was playing in. Like you've got to do your job. And I also think Alzari's batting is quite underrated. I think Alzari's got plenty of potential with the bat.
100%. If he took it more seriously.
Shamar Joseph did bits, by the way. Shamar Joseph has done bits already against the Aussies. And, obviously he's talked about with the ball. Everyone forgets what he did with the bat. So he's fine. Seals is a number 11 from what I've seen. But they've kind of got, rather than 8, 9, 10, they've got 3 number 9s. And sometimes that happens, and that's fine. Like you say, Alzari has to step up a bit with the bat, and he has to step up a fair bit with the ball, because he is now at, what is he, 27? He's the leader of the attack, because Holder's sort of still basically the leader of the team, but he's the leader of the bowling attack, and he has to show that. But on paper, that's a much better attack than England's. It's more balanced. They know
it's
what
far
they're
more
doing,
balanced,
and they've got 2 guys that properly crank it up. And Seals, so Joseph is still a bit X factor. Like, we've not seen that much of him at the top level. His first over in the IPL was hilarious. It's one of my favourite ever overs, and they should have given him another couple of goes after that. But it was like wide, no ball, 5 wides, no ball again, unplayable delivery. Like he's got the lot. He's box office. Yeah. Alzari should be coming into his craft. Holder is somebody that has got to do lots of work, and he's got to do the ugly, dirty work for this team. He's got to hang around with the bat, and he's got to bowl the mud overs with the ball when it gets dirty and it gets hard. And it's like, this is the tough work, and Holder's going to have to do it, right? Because he's been around for 12 years.
Yeah, because I was saying that Holder has to accept. I mean, he's only 32, but he's a senior statesperson now in the side, along with Craig Brathwaite. Holder now has to accept he's not the gun, sorry, all rounder he was at 28 or 27. He's now the guy who West Indies for me. If England at any point are like 200 for two or 400 for three or four, Holder's got to bowl those overs where it's just like, you know what, go bowl a defensive line and just control this situation for a bit
Yeah.
because we're out the game and we need somebody who can just bowl to a field and just try and get the scoring rate under control. He's not going to bowl, or I don't think he's going to get the opportunity to bowl many of the wicket taking overs. If it's working for the West Indies, then Seals, Joseph, and Joseph are getting the majority of the overs. And I think
100%.
Holder has to accept that he's bowling when it's not working for the West Indies. If you see what I mean.
100%. Because if it is working, it's swinging around corners, or those two are absolutely cranking it up, and they can run through England. The thing is, this is going to be a weird series in terms of who's on top and how the cricket goes and all that kind of thing, right? Because there will definitely be times where West Indies are staring down the barrel against the way England play cricket at the moment, and it's trying to, as you say, rather than going with Joseph or both Josephs and going, oh dear, we've let England get away here. You can look around and you've had a bad half an hour and England have scored 100 and they've totally wiped you out in an innings because they've scored at 10 and over, which is possible with the way this team play their cricket. And you need to identify when that might happen and go, right, we need to put a stop to this. We're bowling dry, outside off, pack the offside field, that's it. Or leg side, whatever you want to do, bowl bouncers for half an hour or something. So they need holders masses of experience to identify when that could be happening. And when you are on top, so this is an England side that is very capable of the full collapse, and it's capable of teams running away against them with the bat. I don't think the West Indies have the batting lineup that is going to blast England out of the game as they have in times gone by. I think that tail could be funny. I think if you get Joseph and Joseph in together with the bat for 45 minutes, that could be really fun. But there's going to be, because of what England's like now, we both live in England, the weather changes every 15 minutes. And there's going to be times where it is hooping round corners under massive clouds. And if Anderson's bowling, you're due about 5 runs before you nick off. But West Indies have got to be fully aware that they will get the benefit of those conditions. And the way England play with the bat, they will give up chance after chance, because they did it in the Ashes. There was a time where, so the Ashes was basically a team with no brains against a team with no bollocks. England against Australia. That's what it was. And England turned up and they went all in on the philosophy and forgot how to win test matches. And if they'd have gone slightly less all in on the philosophy and reined it in when they were massively under it with the cloud cover and Australia swinging it round corners, this is the shot that you play, or you do this, right? Just for half an hour while it's seaming and swinging everywhere, right? Just put it away. And England went, yeah, but come on, we're the bloody lads, aren't we? And they they lost 4 wickets in that half an hour, and that lost them a test match. There are times where the conditions hugely favour you in England. West Indies probably need a bit of luck on that front. They want to be bowling when it's cloudy rather than, lining up 3, 4 and 5 to all nick off because they haven't faced it before. I'm really looking forward to it. I think the worst thing that can happen is that England get quite good conditions and score bundles, and then clouds come down and West Indies are 20 for 4 and it might spoil the whole series. That could happen. But I think West Indies have got enough about them. I don't know enough about Louis. I don't know enough about him. I've seen all the rest multiple times. I'm not sure how Mackenzie's going to go, but like I said to you last time, Brathwaite, I have question marks about whether he can be the Brathwaite that I love watching. And that's the 100 balls face Brathwaite.
I hear you. Listen, by the time we next talk, it will have been the end of the first test match, so we can chew the fat. We can chew the fat then. But let's turn to another iteration of the West Indies team. On Sunday, I turned on my TV to find and watch West Indies legends versus South Africa legends. Many of the players on show had stomachs bigger than Shimron Hetmeyer. And it was, I didn't even know what to make of it. If I tell you the truth, it was comical and nostalgic in equal measures. Um, and I mean, Gale turned the clock back with a 70 odd of 30. What Badri was, I mean, there was some comical runouts. There was, do you know, even in some senses, it was a bit sad to see as well, in terms of seeing some former greats of the game probably not really being in any kind of physical shape. Not because they're too big, but just you clearly hadn't done any training, so therefore weren't in any physical shape. Similar to me, if I suddenly decided right now I'm going to run and play 90 minutes of 11-a-side football, I'd pull all manners of injuries within the first 30 minutes, right? It felt like that. What on
Yeah.
earth do you make of this champions, this Legends Champions
So,
competition?
so firstly, I love it. I love watching it. I was betting on it just before we came on air. I think that from a betting point of view, the markets don't react properly to the wild differences between the ones that are still playing and the ones that are 50 playing with no knees. Right?
Yeah.
It's England are currently playing with Bapara and Samit, who are also playing in the T20 Blast as we speak.
Yeah.
So they're lining up against 50-year-olds that can't move, and they're also playing against 17-year-olds like the next day. Like, what the hell is going on with this tournament? So
Yeah, because in the West Indies team, we were laughing, myself and Santoki, because Chadwick Walton is playing in the West Indies team. He was literally playing 4-day cricket for Jamaica no less than, what, 2-3 months ago? And we
yeah,
were like, wait, but Chadwick's actually on the T20 franchise circuit. He's actually playing
yeah.
still.
So yeah, Chadwick Walton's an actual current cricketer. So Chadwick Walton, as we're talking right now, is 83 not out of 37, right?
Yeah.
83 not out of 37. And the markets can't handle it. And Stuart Meeker, friend of Cricket8, he's been on a couple of times, and he's been messaging me about some of the goings on. And I said, look, firstly, can you get me Chris Gale? That's all I'm interested in as far as this goes. If I come to Northampton, am I going to meet him? And he was like, I don't know. So that's why I'm talking to you, and I'm not in Northampton. And I was like, how much practice have you done? And it was like, we had one training session. And I said, are you all going out as an 11 afterwards on the beers? If so, let me know where you're going, because I am definitely going to fanboy the hell out of that. And he was like, not really. And then you look at South Africa, that was hilarious the other day. They had that many injuries. So they're like, who can play is what it boils down to. At one point, Mackenzie got a wicket and his son caught it. His son took the catch because he was one of the only people that was able to field for them. It was like, can anyone play? Can you put this kit on? It was like playing for my over 40s village team on a Wednesday night. It was like, can anyone be about, please? Like the guy selling the ice cream is like, mate, do you mind just fielding for 15 minutes because the other guy's not here yet? So yeah, Mackenzie caught Mackenzie was one of the wickets, which that was amazing. Callis waddling out with his wig on, fair enough. He scored at 85 strike rate when he was playing T20. So what's he going to do now? Basically doing that. The really funny bit was that, Levy, I realised before everybody starts that I am in a glass house before I start throwing stones based on people's waistlines. But Levy was quite a big guy. He was in the Northants Legends 11 that won the T20 Blast when all of them were like 4 stone heavier than anybody else. Him, Kleinveld, Josh Cobb, all of those guys. Levy comes in and he's like, Mackenzie is hobbling up to the crease going, I know I don't have to talk to you about running quick singles here, Richard, but I can't move. Like he couldn't run at all. So he got run out and then Levy got run out in like 5 minutes. It was so good to watch. Like Duminy you'd think would be too good and he wasn't. And then, I was talking about batting orders. They went Dane Villas, who can definitely still do it against these clowns. He got 44 not out of 17 at the end. And then somehow Gale got 70 or 40. And if you watch Gale in the other ones, it's basically you bowl a good ball at him and he's like either nicks it off or gets pinned LBW. Like he's not playing cricket now, Chris. He's doing lots of other stuff. I'm definitely not going to say anything bad about him because I love him. But how did he get 70 or 40? And then you look at the bowlers and you're like, oh yeah, it's Mackenzie's bowling off one leg and who else was bowling at him? Oh, Philander. Now, Philander's definitely had a good time since he retired because it wasn't that long ago. He was good enough to beat everyone in test matches and he's sort of coming in trousers that are 3 sizes too small, and Charles Langeveld. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what like. But the funniest thing about this, right, is you would expect Imran Tahir, who has played for 119 different cricket teams in his career, to be fine in this because he's still played franchise
Yep,
stuff like this year. He's getting
of course.
smacked out of sight. Everybody is ballooning him all over the place. He's like none for 90 in his last 2 games or something.
Which is
So
why this whole tournament is so bizarre. It's
it's
like
great.
bizarro world watching this tournament.
It's great. It's like talking about. So I'm obviously heavily involved with the betting side of things. This is way
Mm,
easier to make money on than the IPL or the World Cup because
mm.
everybody knows what's going on in the IPL and the World Cup, and it's like bookies putting out lines and they're going, Jack Callis, 25.5 runs. I'm like, well, how much can I have on unders, you maniacs? Like 25.5 runs, yeah, 15 years ago, sure. But like, he's just about to face like, who played the other day? Negi played. He's 31. What are you doing,
Mm.
man? What are you playing in this for? You're 30, you're 31 years old, and he's lining up against a 50-year-old. Ashwell Prince is there. Yeah, it's really funny. And then today, you go Chadwick Walton, 19.5 runs. Is it like, is he worth 19.5 playing at this?
Mm.
Like his line's 19.5 when he's playing in the franchise stuff, and
Exactly.
he's
Yeah.
it's just yeah, it's really funny. And obviously, like sometimes you're getting a 40-meter boundary one side. I could watch this all day, every day. This legend stuff, I absolutely love it. Um, I think there may occasionally be dark forces at work when we watch some of this. I think Pakistan are potentially a bit too good sometimes with some of the players they get on the park. Like Malik again. I know Malik's like probably meets the age criteria, but he's still playing in pretty much every franchise tournament that's going on, and he's
Mm-hmm.
turning up and playing in this. Yeah, funny pitches. Obviously, the one thing I like, or another thing I like about it is they basically play through howling rain as well. They're just like, oh, well, come on, everyone's come here to watch cricket. We're not going in.
Yeah, exactly. Come on, we got to give people we got to give them something here. But then, let me kind of cut to the chase with it. Are Pakistan, based on what you've seen in this tournament? I mean, I think they've won every game thus far, I believe.
Yeah.
Are they the obvious standout side, or can you not look at it as a tournament like that, where it's like, well, you know what, anything could happen, so there's no point in even saying they're the standout side because anything could happen by the time it reaches the final.
Yeah, it's you're only ever sort of 1 or 2 injuries away from being dead. And the thing is, if you've got a guy like Walton, he could score 100 off 30 in this, and it doesn't really matter what else happens.
Mm,
Pakistan, yeah, on paper they've got like 4.5 bowlers, and some teams have only got 1.5. Like it's a big difference.
mm.
And but like anybody that bats for an hour in this is probably a week away from being able to do anything again, like move their arms and legs. I think it was Eunice Khan, was it, the other day that got a load of runs, and he was
Yeah.
like, he was injured before he got a load of runs, and then when he got the runs, they were like, "Is Eunice playing tomorrow?" And they're like, "Don't be ridiculous. Of course he isn't. Like, if we could get him back for the final, then maybe." And
Do you
like
know
South
what?
Africa,
One of the commentators said on Saturday, I can't remember who it was, but they were like, it was about the South African team who literally were like a dad's army walking wounded, right? And one of the
yeah,
commentators said something to the effect of, what you have to understand is for a lot of these guys, they haven't put spikes on in a long time. So when they're running, it's really hurting their knees. And I was listening to it thinking, now, for all I know, that makes physiology like that. And from a physiology point of view, that makes a lot of sense. But in my head, I was rewinding that line in my head, going, "Do you know how ridiculous that makes this competition sound? That we're saying that it's quite hard to run on these spikes in this game that we're supposed to be playing." So I think that kind of puts the whole tournament in perspective.
yeah, you could put roller skates on these guys, and they'd still be no better. Or you could just like, you could make it a computer game and just let them have one rather than making them walk down the other end, or let them have two if they manage to beat the infield or whatever. But yeah, it's really like, I think you summed it up best with the first sentence you said, like just the amount of comedy and nostalgia in it. And it's like I know this is going to alienate every country in the world apart from one, but like just watch UK Gold when you're kind of an evening and you can relax and get a bit of comedy and nostalgia in. And that's what this is like. It's like I like watching Kevin Peterson again. He got the switch hit out today.
Mm.
And like we thought we had seen the end of that 6 years ago. And he's coming out, and he got a few out the middle, and he hit his switch hit, and then he hit a massive six, and then he got LB plum. It's really funny. Like, Ashley Nurse is coming to the crease right now, and they need like 85 or 35 or something, and who knows? Like, he can still whack it. He's definitely had a good time since he retired, because I'm sure I saw him playing in actual cricket about 2 years ago, Ashley Nurse. But yeah, Usman Afzal is bowling, and I would love to see a speed gun, because it ain't 20. Like, he is breaking no speed limits with his bowling, and he's walking in. He looks older than me. Wow, he's giving it so much air that they just can't resist it, and every ball is either six or caught long on or long off. It's absolutely wonderful. I'm thoroughly enjoying it.
So let me just end with this then. Two questions to end it. One, do you see a future with this tournament? Like, there's a cricket tournament every single second nowadays. So do you see this as a tournament that could be played on a regular basis? Have tried that road safety thing in India before, but do you think there's any miles in this one? And two, if you do, so two, you may not need to answer. Two, if you do see miles in this, do you think it should be hosted somewhere other than England to really maximize it as a concept?
I think that there is legs in it. I think the road safety series or whatever wasn't really marketed from what I could see, and it just sort of hopped up in the middle of a really busy calendar. And I know you're not gonna get someone to pause the IPL for a week while you play one of these or whatever. I do live in the real world, but they could have done better with telling us what was going to happen. But when Sachin plays, it's like, wow, and Yuvraj and all that. But I think the way this improves, firstly, England is a great place to have it, weather notwithstanding, because in England we have fan bases from every country living in the country, right? So when India played Pakistan, which I think was Saturday, they had sold, I know a lot of people didn't turn up because of the rain, but Mika said they sold 20,000 tickets to watch a load of old men waddling about, right? But what the teams can do to give this tournament a bit of longevity, a bit more marketing, they've got the names here. They've got Chris Gale and KP playing against each other. Like, that's really good. Like, Yuvraj plays in it. They've got the names. Get these guys doing a bit of marketing. Go round some cricket clubs and stuff and say, look, we're bringing the big boys to this. Give some free tickets away for schools. Get some bums on the seats, and then at least make it look like you've thought that you might play in a cricket tournament, lads. Like, one training session where you've got together the night before and had a couple of beers and a net for 20 minutes or whatever. Like, that is literally what my team does. If you're really keen, you'll do a net in between matches if you're a massive keynote, and there's no way like most of these have done it. And then you have to have some kind of rules that, why is Kevin O'Brien playing for England, right? He's not English. He played for Ireland in his career, and he can't bowl because his shoulder's shot to bits. So he's batting number 9 and doing nothing, right? So they could give us a bit of something to watch that's not just funny because it's silly. Like, if they actually played a load of 45-year-olds against each other who were still trying to play some sort of half-decent cricket, it'd be a great product, because some people, like the armchair fan, grew up watching a sport, let's say it's cricket, and you've got this name, this name, this name. These are your go-to guys when you're talking about cricket. I do it with football. Like, my era was 20 years ago. It's not now. I'd love it if I saw those guys playing 6-a-side or 7-a-side. They do like a Masters thing sometimes.
Exactly.
It's really funny, right? So I want to see these legends, and I think people of our age or my age want to go and watch Lara play, and Tendulkar play, and Yuvraj and Kevin Peterson and all these heroes. But if they're just rocking up and hitting the first ball they see straight up into the sky, and they're getting caught by a 25-year-old who's playing for Northants tonight, like, it makes a bit of a joke of it. So if they get away from the joke and market it properly, it could be really fun, this comp.
100%. Listen, people, we're going to end it there. By all means, those who are just watching this now on the replay, thank you for joining us the second time round. Those who've been watching it live, thank you as ever for joining us on the Cricket8 podcast. We'll be back very soon. Make sure you tune in tomorrow, not just on Cricket8, but also obviously to watch the cricket itself, whether it's Major League Cricket, LPL, but most importantly of all, from our perspective, the England versus West Indies Test match series, which all gets underway tomorrow. I've been Machel St. Patrick Hewitt. Rob Barron has been Rob Barron. We've been the Cricket8 podcast. See you again very soon.
Bye.